If there's a better description of financial counseling, I haven't heard it. Financial counseling is helping with the obvious and the not so obvious, meeting clients where they are and supporting them as they work toward their goals. For some clients, this is easy. For others, it comes with unexpected challenges. And for those exiting the prison system, unexpected challenges become expected. Individuals exiting the prison system, especially those who have been incarcerated for long periods of time, must rebuild their lives. They must reestablish credit, secure stable employment, navigate financial uncertainties, and even purchase basic clothing and personal care items. This is exactly where financial counseling and coaching can have a tremendous impact, especially as part of an intentional, tailored program for support. I was lucky enough to lead such a program in 2021, and I am so excited to tell you about that program today. For this program, I partnered with Healing Broken Circles, an organization based in Columbus, Ohio, that provides opportunities to heal, learn, and thrive for those touched by the justice system. Part of HBC's programming includes offering classes inside Marion Correctional Institution in Marion, Ohio, about an hour north of Columbus. I taught a weekly course inside MCI based on the AFCPE's Money Management Essentials curriculum. And after successfully completing the course, 2 of my students were released. They were invited to participate in the first iteration of the Release Counseling Continuation Program, and I would love for you to meet them.
So me, I am Michael Powell, but I also go by Black Sun. That's what a lot of people, especially in my personal life and the line of work that I do, that's how they address me. So, I answer to either or because my mom said she'll never call me Black. And I work for Healing Broken Circles. It's a nonprofit organization in Columbus, and where I like to say that we specialize in changing lives the right way. But our mission is to provide opportunities to heal, learn, and thrive for those touched by the justice system. And I am also one of the people who have been touched by the justice system. I just did 13 years, 8 months, and I've been out for a little over a year now. I think it's 16 months now. It's crazy to say I think, because if you ask me how long I've been locked up, I would definitely know day for day. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Everybody calls me AV. My real name is Pierre. Don't call me that. I'm like really into music and my kid. Those are like my top 2 focuses at all time. Either one of those is like running in my head at most time. I am like heavy into business right now. That's kind of like another focus of mine because I'm trying to figure out how to like transition my life from like 9-to-5 action to like freeing myself monetarily so I can do nothing, which is the goal. I want to do nothing besides just do music, do whatever I want to do. You know what I mean? So that's the goal. That's what I got aim for right now.
During the course I taught inside, we built post-incarceration budgets and set individual savings goals for each person. But doing something in a classroom setting isn't enough to guarantee success in the real world. In fact, research has shown that there's a gap between classroom learning and action, especially when it comes to money. Researchers have also found that providing an individualized coaching program along with financial support during a key transition moment, say when someone is released from prison, is an effective way of turning classroom learning into action. And that's what this program was designed to do. The purpose of the Release Counseling Continuation Program was to provide financial and educational support to graduates of the Money Management Essentials curriculum as they transitioned out of the justice system. As part of this program, each individual enrolled in the Money Management Essentials program through the AFCPE while he was still incarcerated. That program was taught over about a 16-week period during the fall of 2019, and both individuals, as well as most of the rest of their classmates, successfully passed and completed that program. During 2020, both individuals were released from incarceration at different times during the year. At the beginning of 2021, we received confirmation that this program, the Release Counseling Program, could move forward. And in February, we contacted each individual to invite him to participate. We asked each one to complete a pre-survey where we asked some standard questions, shared some information about the program, and also collected some financial information and also some knowledge and habit information from each person. After each person completed the pre-survey, the official counseling sessions kicked off at the beginning of March. There were 6 counseling sessions in all conducted via Zoom. Each was a one-on-one meeting between the individual and the counselor, and they took place every 2 weeks, following a schedule that worked for both the participant and the counselor. As part of this as well, each individual received a $2,500 grant. The grant was payable in 2 installments, a $1,500 installment at the beginning of the program, and then a $1,000 installment towards the end of the program, as long as the individual was making sufficient progress. And of course, both individuals were. During the first session with each individual, we spent quite a bit of time setting up some goals specifically for the program. The first individual, we're calling individual A, articulated these 5 goals. He wanted to better estimate his monthly spending, plus specific costs associated with moving and transition. For context, this individual had a lease that was ending in the near term and was interested in moving into a more permanent housing situation, also possibly exploring a rent-to-own option or purchasing a place. So he wanted additional clarity around those things. His second goal was to determine the amount of funds to keep in savings, plus explore some investment options for those funds. His third goal was to review a plan to purchase a home. His fourth goal was to improve and build his credit. And his fifth goal was to review his tax obligations and better understand his tax return. Remember, for context, these sessions happened between March and May, so taxes were top of mind for both individuals. We took those goals and layered them into what we loosely called a plan of support. So we set up the 6 meeting dates and times, including the first meeting where we articulated these goals, and then we loosely outlined what we wanted to cover during each of those meetings. You will note that several of the meetings had times that seemed inconsistent. There were a couple of reschedules, and this person's job schedule changed. So we needed to be flexible to accommodate his different working hours. The final session on May 10th was a wrap-up session where we articulated next steps and reviewed the goals, including A's accomplishments. Individual B had some similar goals. B's first goal was to budget and save $600 per month. That was a number he was pretty clear on based on his existing spending and his income. His second goal was to create a separate emergency fund from his savings account. He wanted this to live in a separate bank account. His third goal was very personal. It was to manage financial impulses. He found himself spending money, and it was money he had, but spending money without necessarily a ton of intention. And so that was something he wanted to think about and build a little bit more intentionality around. His fourth goal was to form an LLC, and his fifth goal was to build credit. As with A, we outlined the goals and plan of support during our first meeting and layered in each goal with a different meeting session. You'll notice these meetings again happened every 2 weeks. They all happened via Zoom, and these were individual one-on-one meetings between the financial counselor and each person. B's plan also concluded on May 10th with a wrap-up session where we articulated progress towards goal and concluded with some next steps. After the final session, we asked each participant to complete a post survey, which asked many of the same questions we'd asked during the pre-survey. These were questions around income and savings and debt, and also levels of knowledge and habits and a sense of control around the financial process. Much of the data we're reporting on comes from the difference between what was reported in the pre-survey and what was reported in the post-survey.
And then, of course, we gathered that data, we analyzed it, and we pulled it together into a complete report, both for the funder of this program, for the organization, and for each individual. In terms of progress toward goal, A made a lot of progress. He accomplished a number of goals, including amending one goal that no longer ended up being relevant. And many of these goals continue to be in process. For example, A continues to make great progress estimating monthly spending. He definitely has increased his intentionality around spending, and that's reflected in many of the conversations we had. A determined the amount of funds to keep in savings, plus explored some investment options for those. As we continued the conversation, A had articulated about $5,000 being the number, but based on his family and household spending, $12,000 is probably closer to the real number he needs to cover his expenses for 6 months. A ended up not purchasing a home, but he did move and signed a lease and was able to fully cover his expenses for himself, his partner, and his daughter. He was able to remove a negative item from his credit report, and he got a credit card through Chime to continue to build his credit score and his credit history. And he built tax knowledge for next year based on this year's tax return. B had similar success. He was able to budget and save, although he wasn't able to save a full $600 per month because life happened. His intentionality was still there. He still increased his savings by $400. And the importance of savings was definitely reinforced because he needed to use much of the savings for various life experiences that happened during the course of the counseling. He was able to identify and begin to separate an emergency fund from his savings account. He aims to keep about $1,200 in his checking account, and it has $900 in it now. So once he hits that milestone, he's going to open an online savings account. He made fantastic progress managing impulses, in his words. He redefined the support he was providing to other individuals and definitely increased his awareness of what was driving his need to spend impulsively and support others. And in reviewing data from his bank account, he has done a tremendous job throughout the program, kind of, again, bringing that intentionality to the spending and certainly being more cognizant of his spending. He continues to work with a creative partner on a music business idea, but forming an LLC was no longer a crucial goal for B, but it might resurface in the future. And of course, he was able to successfully build his credit. He applied for a credit card through his financial institution, and he uses it to purchase gas for his car each month. And he is making automatic on-time car payments with the ultimate goal of certainly paying off the car loan and also using that to build his credit and renegotiate the interest rate on his loan.
There are 3 key results from this program I'd like to highlight for you. First, both participants increased their awareness of expenses. One individual didn't really have an idea of what his expenses were at the beginning, but he had a solid grasp of them by the end. The other individual was pretty aware, and he became even more aware, specifically around different categories of expenses. And he increased the intention with which he chose to have expenses. Next, both individuals increased their savings. The first individual started out with about $300 in savings, and by the end of our sessions, he had $3,500 saved. The second individual started out with about $500 saved and ended up with $900. Both individuals had some pretty crazy life complications during this time, so to be able to increase their savings at all, let alone by substantial amounts, was pretty fantastic. Finally, both individuals decreased their debt. One individual decreased his debt from $600 to $0, and the other individual decreased his car loan debt from $12,500 to $11,000. This individual also increased his credit score by about 250 points by making on-time payments on this debt. But these results are only part of the impact. I invited Black and AV to share what they thought the most impactful part of this program was with you.
Impact, because impact is super important. I say that this program impacted me the most by teaching me to be prepared. You know, we all have like expectations about how we manage money and what we do with it. And we can go through our day by day, sometimes even week by week. But, you know, it's the unforeseen things that tend to break you down the most or be the most burdensome. So this program taught me to be prepared for that already. Like things go wrong, we don't know what's gonna go wrong, but we know something will. And had I not taken this program, had I not, you know, listened to the counseling sessions like, hey, the emergency fund is important because, you know, you may have all your affairs in order now, but what if? That what if prepared me for pretty much everything that I had going on with me, because I had so many variables that it's ridiculous. So that was the biggest impact, preparation.
Let's see, the top two. One would be so you showed me and the importance of like tracking my money. That was something that I did not do before taking this class. It was like, okay, so once I do have money, what am I spending money on? And then going back within the month and being like, okay, this is what I spent on this. This is how much I spent on food. That helped me to save like a lot of money. Like there was a lot of times I didn't realize how much I was spending on stuff like fast food, which I didn't cut out. A lot of it, a whole lot of it. And like also healthier, by the way. And with that money I saved, I got like a gym membership, but I have more money saved. So it's cool. And also, so the saving part, the watching it, and then also the saving part, the planning of the money. Both of those two things kind of like just really kind of like help you get a better grasp, or me get a better grasp of my finances. So now I'm like, okay, cool. When I do get money, this is what I'm going to do with it. And I don't always follow the plan to the T. But then at the end of the month, when I also go back though, I can also see like where I might have made a mistake or where I want to like replan for next month. And that definitely has like helped me save and like get a better grasp of my finances.
So many things surprised us during this process, including unexpected expenses. In fact, unexpected expenses became the norm, creating challenges to accumulating savings long-term.
Oh man, the first variable was filing taxes. Big variable. You know, everybody tends to rely a lot on that tax refund. But through the counseling sessions, I started to see like I didn't even necessarily need the tax refund. So I could use that money to either save or utilize it in a different way to try to generate more money. I didn't have to use any of that money towards expenses. So I was good in that regard. However, variable curveball, I found out that in 2010, somebody filed taxes fraudulently under my name. So they took my tax return. And had I not been prepared for that, had I not, you know, had a different outlook for what I wanted that money for, I could be in a hole bad right now, because I'm still going through the process now about how to clear my own name for something that I didn't do. So, you know, just being there and being like, okay, let's prepare for this. And what are we going to actually use this money for? I ended up not actually needing it. So it's not going to hurt me waiting to get it.
Okay, sure. I got one for you. This is a good story and a bad story, I guess. You know what I mean? But it'd be like that. So let's say about 5 months after I start, I don't know if you remember this, I was also saving to buy a car. And in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm going to save like $5,000, 3, 4, 5 to try to just get a car so I can start moving, right? So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to like I'm going to see what I can do to do my best. I'm like, work as hard as I can and save my money as much as I can to like buy a car. So what I did was I just put money into my account and I turned off the notifications so that they didn't come to my phone. Because right now I have like every morning notifications tell me my bank account, what I spent yesterday, and then what I have, you know what I mean, currently in savings and in my checking account, right? Because I like to pay attention to it. So I turned those off though for that whole 5 months. And the plan was to save like from 3,000 to 5,000 just to buy, you know, a little beater to get around here and there. So after about 5.5 months, and at that time, like I was doing all sorts of things. Like I was working a lot of hours. I was doing a lot of like little business moves and stuff like that. So once I did get the time to look at how much money I had at the end, like, okay, it's time. I had like a way more than what I thought I was going to have. So I skipped the Toyota and I bought an Audi instead of it. I shouldn't. That's why I should not have. I should not have, for sure. I should not have. But I was like, hey man, I saved this for the car. So shoot, I went. Yeah, I should not have. I should not have. But I was like, forget it, man. I'm copping an Audi. So I bought an Audi instead. Let me tell you that just the effectiveness of this program, or just the vibe me and you have, like, so the feeling, I don't know if I remember telling you this, but at the feeling, beginning of the program, I told you I had the feeling like I really didn't have too much control over my finances. So that is not a thing anymore. Actually, quite the opposite, like super opposite of that. Now I feel like I have like a extreme control over it. And it, like, to other people, I can tell because other people look at me and like be asking me for advice as if I have like the answers or something like that. Like, hey, how are you doing this? Or how are you doing? You know what I mean? I can always give them the, like, okay, this is what I'm doing here. Or this is what I'm doing that. But it looks like I'm winning. Looks like I'm lightweight balling. You know what I mean? Just like with a couple changes though, not with nothing like drastic in my life. It's more just like just watching what's going on with my money and planning for it, and not just letting, you know what I mean? I had a lot of money that was like just disappearing. It seemed like, you know what I mean? Like in a month, $150 might not, okay, with a subscription service here or a meal out that I didn't plan for here, you know what I mean? And then it would just like kind of evaporate. Now I make like nothing evaporates. I want to know everything what's happening with my money. I think everybody should know what is happening with their money because they work hard for it. They deserve that. I deserve that. So I keep track of mine.
It's also noteworthy that both individuals expressed a desire to make gestures of generosity. These gestures were in part driven by the need to make up for lost time or to show appreciation to those who had supported them while they were incarcerated. Acknowledging these gestures and planning them so they would be a little less impulsive and offered with more intention in the context of an overall budget was part of this counseling process. There were 4 key success factors I think contributed to the success of this program. First, both individuals completed the MME coursework in advance as part of the course I taught. This provided foundational knowledge and a common language for us to build upon. Without this, we may have needed some additional educational sessions to build up that common vocabulary and those common skills. The second factor was the existing relationship we had. Because I was able to also teach the MME course, we had an established relationship of trust and understanding. We knew each other. This means we didn't have to spend as much time building that trust and that rapport during our initial sessions. It was already there. Without this, if someone was starting a program like this without that existing relationship, planning for some of that additional time is absolutely necessary. It's also worth noting that one of the success factors was taking a participant-focused approach. Instead of forcing individuals to adapt to best financial practices that we all know and love, this program was designed to enable the participants to define their own goals and work toward them with support, with accountability, and with some nudges along the way. But it was not designed to force them into taking actions that did not feel authentic or didn't make sense within the context of their lives. The fourth success factor was the existence of the grant funding. Each individual received $2,500 paid in 2 different installments. By providing this unrestricted grant funding to the individuals, they were able to take tangible actions they otherwise may not have been able to take as part of this counseling program. When we surveyed the participants at the end of the program, we asked them what they used that micro grant on. We had talked about setting aside a portion for taxes and saving some, but the reality is the individuals used most of the money on life expenses and moving expenses. It's tough out there. It is my hope that this program will be replicated in other communities. I found that leading with empathy, letting each individual drive the process and his own goals, and celebrating small steps all contributed to the program's success. I also asked Black and AV what they would share with you all or other financial counselors who might be exploring this type of program.
I would probably say, I mean, this might be a weird, probably in the beginning, you should probably take the time, which has nothing to do with finance stuff, and just kind of like vibe with the person, or like just spend time talking with the person to kind of get that personal connection. Because just it is kind of uncomfortable. It is pretty uncomfortable to people be talking about their money and like, oh man, I just blew this money when they know they shouldn't have, and you know what I mean. I just did this, and to like really get that in depth person to person feel, you guys definitely have to have some sort of like personal connection to where they feel like they can trust you, or you're not gonna like blast them, or you know what I mean, make fun of them, or whatever, you know what I mean, think down on them. So definitely that personal connection is mad important.
I would tell the financial counselors, one of the biggest things that you need to know is that it may seem like common sense to you, but some people have never explored the concept of what to do with money ever besides spending it. And most of the time, when they thought about spending it, it was money they didn't even have yet. That's one thing that, because I struggled with that in home and having an abundance of cash right when I came home, because you know people bless you when you return to society. They know that you need things, so they help you. And had I not already been in the mind frame of like, hey, don't blow this money, man, ain't no telling what I've been walking around here with. Like, you know, now I got a new pair of Gucci shoes because they only cost $300, but I got more money than that. You know, and a lot of people live their life that way. A lot of people splurge on things once they get an abundance of cash because they live in scarcity all the time. So whenever I come into an influx, I'm about to blow it on something that I really like. And that's a destructive behavior. However, sometimes that's all we know. That's all I ever knew growing up. You know, I've been struggling for so long with all this. Now I got some money, I'm about to go enjoy it. Not looking towards the future. So if I had to tell you that was the biggest thing that you should know, is come into it with that mentality first. Like everybody, some people have never ever had to deal with money.
I would not presume to give you advice, but I found that a few things helped make this program successful. So if you're considering offering something like this in your community, maybe keep these things in mind. First, lead with empathy. Both individuals were managing and juggling a lot as part of this process, including money. But money wasn't always the most important thing they were juggling. Recognize that small steps are still steps. Listen to the individual's goals rather than helping them set standard goals for financial counseling and coaching clients. Let the individual drive the process. Each person is the expert in his experiences and his goals, and this process is designed to emphasize that. Emphasizing his autonomy and agency is an important part of building self-efficacy in addition to providing ongoing support. Recognize that you might need to hold the hands of your clients along the way, especially for individuals who have been released from incarceration. I helped with research for credit card options. I confirmed the mailing address for a tax return after the individual wanted to double and triple and then quadruple check that he was sending it to the right place. I even looked up contact information for the Attorney General to clear up a paperwork issue. Being fully present during this process can provide the encouragement and assistance these individuals need, especially if the information isn't readily available. Those are relatively minor roadblocks that financial counselors can help clients clear.
Final words. Have confidence in your teaching abilities. And this is to financial counselors and other people who are knowledgeable about money. Have confidence in those teaching abilities, because I know that, it's not a one-trick pony. Everything doesn't work for everybody. However, the wisdom that you impart is so applicable to a life that you can change it in a way that you've never really seen. Just coming out in my 30s and being looked at as some figure who has some level of maturity, explaining to somebody else, like, yeah, I really don't know how to manage money at all. I've never had to maintain a budget. I've never done any of this before. Having somebody to teach me was invaluable. Having somebody just challenge me to think about it was invaluable, because it pushed me forward into another level of adulthood that I wouldn't have got to had I not had to experience somebody else's wisdom. Because sometimes going through those money issues, you mess up and do the wrong thing and you don't got nobody to lean on, and you got to start all over. And I am very fortunate that I didn't have to do that, because it could have happened a couple times. So have confidence in what you're teaching. And even if your student, because I don't listen to everything, even if your student seems a little antagonistic to your views at first, it still plants a seed. And as money comes in, that seed gets watered by the things that I have to do from listening to you. So like, that's invaluable, man. Please have confidence in that, and please continue to do that.
This is definitely the sort of thing that will come with a lot of wins and losses with the people, for sure. Definitely there will be a lot of people who pay attention to it, but there will probably be more people who like listen but do not actually take in what you were saying. But the people who actually like listen to you and like, you know what I mean, take the time to sit down and try to like find the tips, you definitely can change their lives. You know what I mean? Like, that is the most important thing. And it's not like a slight thing. Like, having somebody who has control of their money, who did not have it before, is a life-changing thing. You know what I mean? That is a thing that could free someone who is like by themselves and does not know how to like get out of a situation that they are in. Like, having control of your money is like very, very super important. And it definitely helped my life a ridiculous amount. My child's life, a ridiculous amount. She just started school. She's doing absolutely great. And one of those things is that her dad, me, who works very hard, can financially provide. So that is a very important thing. So like, I would think that this is like super important. You might have 9 people who don't pay attention to you, but the one person who does, though, you probably will have changed their lives. So like, this is paramount to like, you know what I mean? It's going. This is important.
It has been a pleasure spending some time with you today and sharing information about this program. Please do not hesitate to reach out if you have additional questions or if you want to talk more about this. All the best with everything you are doing.